Hi, my name is Stephanie and I'm an autistic adult. Today I wanted to share some ways that employers can support their autistic employees in the workplace. Now, the very first step toward supporting autistic people in the workplace is to gain some understanding about autism. Now, if you want to go all out, I have plenty of videos on my channel you can feel free to check out and learn about autism and different aspects and some things that autistic people face. Please don't expect any autistic employee to be any sort of stereotype that you have been exposed to. We are all very, very unique individuals. Be clear with your expectations. Autistic people really need to know what is expected of them. Obviously, this kind of thing could be easily covered from like an orientation when they're new to the job, just kind of explaining maybe a little more about things that you might think someone might just naturally know or pick up from being there. There are often little specifics that you might just think, oh, everyone knows this, but autistic people tend to be rule followers. So if they don't know that that is, their area and they're allowed in that area to do that thing, they are going to be very hesitant to have a lot of anxiety around whether they should go do that or not and all that sort of thing. Being very clear about what you expect in general from day to day, what kind of needs to be done, who they should talk to about what that kind of hierarchy is. Those sorts of things really help to kind of set the tone, to know what the boundaries are, where they can kind of make their own little world to work in. It's fantastic once you let an autistic person go to do their thing, but they have to know, what are the expectations and what are the boundaries and what are the rules. And once those are understood and established, a lot of times we're very good at thriving. Use clear and precise language. Euphemisms and idioms and what you might call it's a saying or whatever are not typically useful for autistic people. Autistic people do tend to be literal thinkers, so if you say something, it is very likely that their first instinct is going to be to take you literally, and if you didn't mean something literally, this can cause a lot of confusion for both of you. So just being very clear on what you're saying and using precise language and understanding that you're talking to someone who is very likely a literal thinker can help facilitate that communication to be successful. A bit connected to an earlier one, be clear about what the rules and priorities are. Again, autistic people tend to be rule followers. These things matter to us. We want to know what they are. Once we have that area and knowing where we fit, that really helps us to thrive. Another thing really is understanding the priority level of things. So if you just hand us like 5 different things, get these done by the end of the day, a lot of times it's very difficult for us, unless if it's something we're very specialized in, to know, at least on the outset, what needs to go first. It can be very frustrating to try to figure out what you think is a priority versus what we might think is a priority, or we might see things that seem like they're like this and not be able to reach an answer, and so it kind of gets frustrating. So if you're just clear on X, Y, and Z needs to happen in this order, or this needs to be done by the end of the day and this needs to be done by the end of the week, just being very clear about what projects or what items have priority over others can really help us to know how we want to set our schedules and how we work and stuff like that. Work with HR on accommodations. Autistic people tend to have sensory needs and other types of needs that your non-autistic employees may not. Now, depending on your company's structure, they may be talking to HR, they may be talking to you about accommodations that can be reasonable within your workplace. These could be things like noise canceling headphones or earplugs, being able to wear something that's a little different than your average workplace attire to accommodate some type of sensory need, using sensory items, using AAC devices or other means to communicate other than speaking, being able to take breaks away from people in a quiet place when necessary, etc. Now, as I've already mentioned before, most autistic people tend to be rule followers. They're important to most of us. Again, we're all unique individuals, but this is just in general, we're not very likely to ask for things we don't actually need. So sometimes people can assume that, oh, well, like, that seems absurd. We're not likely to ask for something absurd, if that makes sense. So if there's an accommodation that your autistic employee has asked for, it is likely necessary. And sometimes just knowing that the accommodation is in place can be a feeling of safety for that person, and they might not use it, and that's totally fine as well. Even if some of these things aren't practical in your workplace, please try to work with the autistic person on their unique needs. Being able to just take a minute away in maybe a dark or cool room, away from people, to just calm down and bring everything down can work wonders for someone who has high sensory overload and help them to reset and get back into an environment that isn't necessarily sensory friendly. Listen and have patience. Of course, it is important for any employee to be heard, but a lot of times autistic people may have difficulties with communication. Now, this kind of communication tends to be more like feeling based. So if something is bothering them, it might be difficult to express. If something happened that may be more HR related, that kind of thing might be more difficult for them to put into words, or something, maybe an idea or something that's not working and they don't want to frustrate you. That kind of thing might happen sometimes. So it can be difficult because when we're struggling with the idea that we're not all the way good with how we feel and we're concerned about how you're going to feel about how we feel, that can kind of tie up our words and how we think and how we express. Some of us do actually lose the ability to speak sometimes in high stress situations. Some of us might stutter or have trouble getting words out of our mouth. So having that patience to be willing to listen, or even offering an alternative, like maybe you can type this out to me, maybe you can write this out to me, if that makes you more comfortable, that might get you a better expression of what they're trying to communicate to you to solve any workplace problems that might be occurring. Additionally, sometimes we might do some things that seem a little strange. There's things called a stimming or self-stimulatory behavior that might be like rocking back and forth or maybe flapping our hands or something like that. And it's something that we do to self-soothe or to cope and regulate, because again, we're experiencing the same place that you are very differently than you are if you are not autistic, and even if you are, just because again of how unique each autistic individual is. And these actions are not to be like annoying or disruptive, they're just to help us to be able to be here, if that makes sense. And it's actually something you likely do too. You just might do different actions that are more socially acceptable, like people who crack their knuckles or tap their finger on the desk or tap your foot or shake your leg or twirl your hair. Those are more normal stims that average people tend to partake in, that most people don't notice too much unless if it's like really fidgety, as some might say. So, you know, it's not that it's to be disruptive or strange or anything like that. It's just to help us, just like it helps you when you're nervous. Offer training material in different media. So this could be offering to be able to go over it with them in person and explaining it in your own words, or having a video option and having a print material option, because there are often things like audio processing issues that some autistic people have, and each person again is very unique. And so being able to offer training materials in different media can really help a lot of employees to better process the information that you are giving them and expect them to be abiding by. Give a heads up when possible. If you know a change is coming, it is extremely helpful to give some kind of warning to an autistic person. We tend to struggle with change, so if we already are prepared knowing that there is going to be a change coming, obviously it would be best to know as many details as possible about said change. Obviously that's not always possible, but just giving that heads up and the warning that, hey, this thing might change soon, tomorrow or next week or whatever else. Now, if it's not possible to give a heads up or a forewarning about a change, just be mindful that the change can be stressful, even though it might just be, oh, we're moving desks, or a small change, it didn't seem like a big deal. Just to be open to giving a little more time for that person to adjust, because our brains work differently and they don't always like things in their environment being different and changing on them. Autistic people can be fantastic, loyal, and excellent employees that strive in the workplace with the right supports. I hope that this video helps you understand some ways to support autistic employees in the workplace. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd also like to encourage any autistic viewers to also place things that would be helpful to them in the workplace for people who are watching this video. If you'd like to scroll down and see suggestions by other autistic people about ways you can support us in the workplace, that would be a fantastic resource. So if you are autistic, please share that with us as well. If you enjoy autism related content from me, you can hit that subscribe button. I upload it to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you to everyone who supports me here on YouTube as YouTube members, my patrons over on Patreon, and a special thank you to my Spaz tier patron, Marie Johansson. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!